It's all a journey. I mean, right from the age of 12, all I ever wanted to do was to be a guitar player.
Any way you want it, any way you can. Give it to me, baby, I will take it like a man. If you really want it, then you gotta let it show. You gotta let me know. Are you ready? Are you ready for love? Ready for love. Cause I can't get enough. Can't get enough. Are you ready? Are you ready for love? Ready for love. Tell me, are you ready for love?
Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. This is my first interview of 2021 and I am absolutely excited to be joined by the awesome legend of a guitarist that is Myke Gray. Hi.
It's my pleasure to be here. Thank you for asking me.
Yeah, no problem. It's awesome to have you. And how are you? How has everything been in the new year and things like that?
Well, it's been quite a crazy year, obviously. Everyone's dealing with the COVID situation. My Christmas was extremely busy. My girlfriend managed to come over from the US and we shot a couple of videos and we shot all the artwork for the new album. So for me, it was quite intense.
Yeah.
But that's okay. I like that.
Sure. And I mean, we've just been discussing where we're both from. So whereabouts are you zooming from at the moment?
London. I'm very close to Twickenham Rugby Ground, where I've been for a very long time.
Oh, I'm a huge rugby union fan. Oh my goodness. Are you a rugby fan?
I used to be back in the day of like Zing Zang Brook, and I used to support the All Blacks.
Oh, okay.
So I was around that sort of time, around the Jonah Lumu time.
Yeah.
That's when I really, really loved rugby. Yeah. Whenever there was games, the whole area become kind of like gridlock. But yeah. It's been quiet for the last year.
Of course. Right, so for anybody that doesn't know, but I'm sure they do, that you are well known for being the guitarist in bands such as Skin and Jagged Edge. But for you, looking back over that time, obviously before we get into the stuff that you're doing now, what would you say is your fondest memory? How would you sum up the time in the bands that you've been in previously?
I mean, it's all a journey. I mean, right from the age of 12, all I ever wanted to do was to be a guitar player. And I was extremely lucky where I had a lot of opportunities given to me. At the age of 13, I was asked to play with Bernie Tormey on stage at the Marquee. Bernie Tormey was the guitar player for Gillan and Ozzy Osbourne.
Yeah.
And it's strange how we got together, but I got invited. And so my first ever concert was to 800 people at the London Marquee.
Wow.
And then, I got to meet people like John Sykes. I got to meet people like Phil Collin, and they let me play their guitars. And that was all for my very early teenage years. And I'm just someone who's very passionate about music. It kind of consumes my every waking moment.
Yeah.
But the big turning point in my life was when UFO asked me to play guitar for them at the age of 18.
Yeah.
And so I'd spent many years trying to put bands together and not really had any luck because I'd never found musicians as dedicated as I was.
Yeah.
And then on the first day of rehearsal, I don't know if you're familiar with UFO's music, but
a little. I think it's a little bit before my time.
Yeah, I mean, they have all of these classic songs, and one of my three favorite guitar players, Michael Schenker, was the guitar player in UFO. Yeah. So I had to learn all the UFO songs, which I knew most of. But then when I went to rehearsal and I heard Phil Mogg, who's the singer of UFO, sing for the first time, literally like 3 or 4 feet away from me, it was like a new beginning.
Wow.
It was almost like everything that I've done before was irrelevant because now I've worked with one of the greatest singers in the world, playing some of the greatest songs in the world. And so what that did was change the bar of what was then acceptable.
Yeah.
And then a new level of dedication and focus came into it. And then it took quite a few years to get the lineup of Jagged Edge that recorded the album. I probably went through about 30 musicians until I got the one that got a record deal. And then out of Jagged Edge came Skin, and out of Skin came Red, White and Blues, and so on and so on. So it's all been one big learning journey.
And for you, obviously, you said you wanted to be a musician from a young age. Could you always play guitar being young? Like, when did you get into that? When did you start thinking, actually, I can play this instrument?
Well, I mean, the first music that sort of called out to me was punk music.
Yeah.
You know, back in, I think I was about 10 years of age when I first heard the Sex Pistols and the Clash and all of the punk bands. And so that was like the first music that kind of, when this is your music, you know, we all have our thing which pulls us into music. And for me, it was punk. And so I remember getting like an acoustic guitar, but for some reason it didn't connect with me at all. Right. And then a boy at school, whose name was Russell, he just came to school one day with an electric guitar. And for some reason it was kind of like, this is it. This is what it was. Yeah. And as soon as I got that, then it became obsessional. And then I was playing 8 hours a day, 10 hours a day, every day.
Yeah.
And then I discovered, the first time that I discovered rock music, my stepfather had this bunch of cassettes, which was actually sold to him by, it's a long story, but there's this guy, it was a friend of my brother's called Johnny. Yeah. And he actually stabbed a man to death in a car park once. And he came round to my house with these, he just actually stabbed this person to death and was sitting in our living room, but we didn't know it.
Well, yeah, of course.
He was there to see my brother, but it turned out, we found out about 2 days later that he'd come to our house directly from killing someone. But this guy was also responsible for giving my stepfather a box full of cassettes.
Yeah.
Which was full of bands I'd never heard of. And me being me, just kind of systematically went through every single cassette. And there was bands like Genesis and bands like Yes and Pink Floyd. And it was kind of like, yeah, it's okay, but I was just listening to it. And then I got to one cassette which had 2 names on that I'd never heard of before. One of them said Montrose, and then the other one said Van Halen. And so I remember putting in the cassette of Van Halen.
Yeah.
And this was literally like from a movie. It was almost like the clouds parted, and it was just kind of like, this is it. This is all. This is it. This is the changing thing. Whatever I'm listening to now is the most important thing I've ever heard.
Yeah.
I think I was about 12 years of age. And then about 4 years later, I was lucky enough to go to the Monsters of Rock festival where AC/DC were headlining and Van Halen was supporting.
Yeah.
And I was very lucky because my sister was in the music industry and I got to meet Eddie Van Halen that day. Wow. So I was standing outside the dressing room, and he was in his dressing room with Neil Schon, who's the guitar player from Journey, and they were just jamming. And I'm like 16 years of age, just listening to this this stuff that I'd been listening to every day from the age of 12. And then I got introduced to him, and he gave me this big smile. And then 10 years later, I'm supporting Van Halen when Bon Jovi's headlining, then it's Van Halen, then it was Ugly Kid Joe, and then it was Skin.
Yeah.
So there's this huge journey, and I finally got to meet him again. So it was Van Halen.
Yeah.
And to cut it short, Van Halen.
I mean, it's funny that you mentioned that because I didn't even know, and that's the vinyl I've got on top of my record player today is Van Halen. So that's
For me, this is the ultimate guitar player.
Obviously, you started playing guitar. You wanted to be a musician. You got to do all this amazing stuff. And now this is a bit of a random one, but the acoustic guitar that you had first, do you still have that guitar at all, or one of your first guitars?
No, I remember actually destroying it in a frustration. I can't remember what it was. It was something that deeply upset me about something, and in frustration, I just smashed this guitar up.
Before we get on to the new single, which is why I have the pleasure of chatting to you, you obviously posted online, I saw the other day, about you having a bit of a problem with like using iTunes and Spotify and all the streaming services and things like that. And I just wondered, why do you find it, something that you don't really want to do in terms of promoting your music in like the modern day?
Well, I mean, I mean, I started making records like over 30 years ago, and the deals have never been good. I mean, let's get it completely clear. You know, the record deals were structured in a way where the artists were never going to make any money. And so, I mean, if you think about the music industry, the whole industry comes off the passion and drive and the ability of certain individuals to write songs and perform them.
Yeah.
And everything else off of it is basically a way of taking money from that, you know. So the management contracts that you sign generally want 20%, the agents want 10%, you know, the record companies, you know, the way it used to be, a record company would sell a record to a record shop for £5, and the artist would get £1 out of that. Out of that £1, the manager would take 20%. You'd have to split it between 4, 5, or 3 band members, and you have to pay your tax.
Yeah.
You know, whereas, you know, the record shop would be then selling it for £10. So they're making £5, which is 5 times more than the artist. The record company was making 4 times more than the artist. And the way it was structured was they would give you an advance, which would pay for the recording of the album and some money to live on.
Right.
And the artist would never see another penny again until all of those things were recouped out of the £1 that you would be getting. You know, so all of the record contracts were rubbish.
Yeah.
And then came digital, you know, and so I started to look, you know, over the years, I just watched my royalty statements get lower and lower and lower.
Right.
Now I have hundreds of recorded songs that are out,
Yeah.
and my annual or my quarterly PRS statement would be less than £100.
Right.
And then I'd look at how much is coming from digital, and you're talking about a percentage of a penny. And so it just became, with Shades of Grey, I initially made 4 songs available on a digital platform.
Yeah.
And I was getting like £9 a month. It was just kind of like, how is this possible? Because hundreds of people are downloading it.
Yeah.
So I just had enough. So I took them all off, and then I just made them available from my website. If you want the song, just download it or send me, and I'll send it to you directly.
Yeah.
And that's what I've been doing. For me, it's a pointless medium. My instrumental album was made available on iTunes and Spotify, and you're always told, but it's going to help you reach a wider market. 4 years later, no, it hasn't. Not at all.
No.
So I sell everything, and I'm quite passionate about controlling my music, controlling art, and owning my intellectual property.
Yeah.
And this is from 30 years of being in the industry. And the big catalyst to this was when Skin reformed in 2009.
Yeah.
And we were asked to play at the Download Festival. Main stage, Def Leppard, ZZ Top, Journey, Skin. And so I contacted Parlophone, who was the original Skin record label, and said, we're about to play to 80,000 people. Would you consider reissuing the album? And I just got flat, no, it's nothing we want to do. And so I said, well, can I license it from you? You know, because it seems crazy that we're going to play to all of these people and our old record is not going to be made available.
Yeah.
No, not interested. So from that point on, I've always funded and owned the recordings of all the music that I release. So whether it be the Skin ones or the Red, White and Blues, Myke Gray, I own the recordings. And that way, I can be the person who decides if something gets re-released or not, or if I'm going to remarket something.
I really admire that about you. So Are You Ready for Love is your brand new single from Shades of Grey, and you've got a new video out. It was released at the weekend. So how have the responses been for that? Obviously you said a lot of people have pre-ordered the album. So in terms of feedback, what's been the general vibe?
Well, I mean, the concept of Shades of Grey only came about 1 year ago. I was just waiting around, waiting for other musicians to get their act together, and I just got bored. And so I'll make a one-off song and I'll release it, and I'll call it Shades of Grey. I won't even call it Myke Gray, because I really thought that it was going to be swept under the carpet very, very quickly. But to my huge surprise, it got playlisted on Planet Rock, and still receives about 1,000 views a month, and that was for I Get Up. And so the reaction to that was kind of like, well, okay, let's make a record. Obviously, COVID has created an environment, and I have my own studio, where it stopped all other forms of touring and playing. So it allowed me to focus on Shades of Grey. So Are You Ready for Love is my 7th song from the album. And so what I do is finish one song and then release it. Because my girlfriend is a makeup artist, and she does all of the makeup for Shades of Grey, she came over at Christmas time, and I've only seen her for like 4 weeks in the whole year, which is very tough. She came over and we made 2 videos. So Are You Ready for Love is the first one, and then there's another one that's going to be released in about a month. But it was because I play all of the instruments on Shades of Grey. I do the vocals, the guitar, and everything. It's very, Shades of Grey is about my love of glam rock music, whether it be from the 70s, the 80s, or the 90s. Like Sweet, Motley Crue, Kiss, Alice Cooper. I love this stuff so much. But the bands that I've been in, bands like Skin and Red, White and Blues, they were never those kind of bands because of the nature of the singers, which were more blues based. I never got a chance to write those songs within those bands. And so Shades of Grey is my creative outlet of my true love of music, which is this kind of very glamorous, larger than life music. That's the stuff I love most of all, which is like those 3.5-minute rock pop songs. Songs like Living After Midnight, songs like School's Out, songs like Rock and Roll All Night and Party Every Day. That's my real love of music.
Massive influences, I'm sure. There's a different vibe to your new music, which I love, and I can definitely see the influences there from like Motley Crue and things like that because of the makeup and your outfits on stage in that music video as well. So I really love it. I think it's brilliant.
It was in a big venue, but there was only like maybe 6 or 7 people in the entire building, and we all had to be separated all the time. It was very tough, and we just had to adhere to the rules, very strict rules that were in place, which we did. Makes it tougher, because you're used to having interaction with people. But because I was shooting each character individually, I could be by myself on the stage. The cameraman was, a good sort of like 9 feet away. So none of us got close to each other, even though, and the way that we edit it is that, is the guy who filmed it, Elliot, he's very clever. He can splice the videos together so it looks like all 4 of us were on stage at the same time, when in actual fact, we were all on stage at different times.
That's amazing. That's why I asked you, because obviously, looking at it as a viewer, I thought that you were all on stage. I wonder if some people are going to go, social distancing, COVID, but there we go.
It's actually me in all of the characters. I'm the drummer, I'm the bass player, I'm the singer, I'm the guitar player.
Do you know what? That's so weird, because I thought they all looked like you, and I wasn't sure. With all the different hair and stuff, I was like, is that all Myke?
It is. That's all me.
So of course that video is out now. Anybody wants to go and watch it, and where would you say that it's available for people to go and have a look and check it out?
Well, I mean, I have a YouTube channel, which is, if you just type in Myke Gray on YouTube, and obviously on all of my social media, you can see it on my website, which is mykegray.rocks, and Facebook is the platform that I'm on the most. But I also have a Patreon site, so you do everything you can to try and survive. But my Facebook page is the one that I'm on every day, but my YouTube channel has everything, as does my website.
Yes, of course. Yes, go and check it out, everyone, because it's just such a cool video. And as you say, it's all you. So definitely people should check that one out. In terms of new music, because you mentioned earlier that you will be putting another single out very soon. What can you tell us about the single? Is it going to be slightly different to, I know it's off the same album, but is it going to be different to the single you've just released?
the next video is for a song that I released last year. It's a song called Wham Bam.
Yeah.
And it's the video to it is even more glam than the one that I've just done, because the song is heavily influenced by the 70s, you know, the bands like The Sweet and Slade. And so within that video, it's even more glam than the last one. The last one was kind of like 90s glam,
Yes.
but Wham Bam is like 70s glam.
Oh.
You know, and all the way through the project is I keep going back to these influences because they're very much the driving force behind the creation of the band. So we hope to have that released in about 4 weeks, and then the next single will be released in about 6 weeks.
Oh, cool. All right then. So that's good for everybody to know, so they can go and check you out on the social media platforms that you've just said, and obviously keep up to date with anything that you've got going on, of course. Right, this is a bit of a random question. I always ask everybody that I interview this question. Do you have a motto, a saying, or a quote that you like to live your life by?
Yeah, I mean, it's believe nothing, question everything, trust no one.
Finally, I just want to say as well, do you have a message that you would like to send out to fans, followers, lovers of your music? Have you got anything that you want to let them know?
Yeah, I mean, I would say that, you know, 2020 is a year that none of us will forget. There's been a lot of frustration, not only for musicians, there's been a lot of frustration for music lovers. It's just the belief that it will come back. You know, we just have to keep being strong, mentally strong, and just keep the faith. Keep faith in the music, and, you know, the strong will survive. You know, so just don't give up. You know, be passionate about music, and just try and help the younger bands. You know, because they're the ones who are hurting the most. You know, if you wanna support a band, go directly to their website. Buy from the band. They will appreciate it much more than the people that run iTunes and Spotify. You know, and if you buy an album for a band, it's enough for them to eat. If you buy something from Spotify, they get nothing. So my message would be, for music lovers, support the bands directly and forget the middlemen, you know, because they are literally killing the industry. So if you care about music, support the bands directly.
Oh, and of course you are, I just want to say this on the end, I know I said finally, but I know that you are a huge supporter of the new wave of classic rock scene, obviously the emerging band scene as well, because you had Dan from Revival Black on vocals with you as well once, so yeah, well done to you as well for championing new music when you have a platform for yourself. So that's a really cool thing to do.
Well, I mean, I look back to how I was helped when I was younger, and people like Bernie Tormey and Phil Carlin and John Sykes, you know, they were, without their help and encouragement and giving me the belief, then I doubt that I would be here now, you know. So, you know, I'm a songwriter ultimately. The thing that I do most or enjoy the most is writing songs. So if I can get fantastic singers like Daniel to sing my songs, then, you know, it's a privilege for me as well. Mark Pascal from The Departed, also another great singer, you know, so, you know, songs are hard to write, you know, and I've come up with a few good ones over the years. So if I can get people to sing them, it helps me.
Yeah, oh, that's amazing. Well, Myke, I just want to say good luck with everything that you've got going on. And I do love the video.
Thank you very much for your support.
But I just want to say thank you so much for joining me. It's been an absolute pleasure getting to know you and chatting to you. So thank you.
You take care. Pleasure.
You gotta let me know.